Hi everyone, it's Jeremy at Stupid Chainsaw Productions. I wanted to do a different sort of intro to this episode of the Legends podcast. This podcast has taken a very long time to make. It's been about half a year since the last time there was a Legends podcast recorded that successfully made it to the internet. This is the third version of Legends, episode 26, Legends Never Die. The first one had very bad audio and was a very embarrassing live stream. The second one, I couldn't even get Dylan on the live stream because Google Hangouts on Air no longer exists. So Dylan and I went and we just recorded a Skype conversation. So this is a sort of a test podcast with a new format. I want you all to know that it is the same Star Wars Legends podcast you all know and love. It's Dylan and I just talking about what we love most, and that is Star Wars. So I hope you enjoy this podcast because it's a good one. Okay, I think we're recording. It looks like we're. Avoid legal snags by telling people they're being recorded. Good.
I mean, we're in a what, a two-party consent state, right? Is that the terms for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise it's considered illegal wiretapping. And welcome to the Legends podcast. I almost called this the Apology podcast, but Legends Never Die sounds so much better. I'm Jeremy.
And I just work here.
He does just work here.
I'm Dylan, by the way.
I think they figured that. Well, actually, I don't know. Dude, I've gained so many subscribers since this fire. Some of them have probably never seen a Legends podcast.
They're you got them on the pity points. They're like, "Oh man, we need to help this guy build his collection."
I have a couple people sending me stuff. Not too much. Well, we've let the elephant out of the bag now. My collection, since the last podcast, my collection burned up in a fire, except for my copy of Courtship of Princess Leia. All I can do is thank all of the support I've gotten from my fans recently, and the fact that subscriptions have actually gone up.
Mm-hmm.
As of, I think it was Wednesday, I filmed 13 reviews in one sitting.
Wow.
Trying to catch up because I didn't stop. I thankfully have a subscription to Audible, so I kept listening to books. Now, quite frankly, most of them aren't Star Wars books. I think there's 2 Star Wars reviews in there because I'm still behind on that. But basically, I reviewed the entire Dark Tower series.
Ooh, I've heard good things about that, and not the movie.
I haven't brought myself to watch the movie yet. Let's see, what else did I review? Oh, the Rambo books, which are actually very good. But that's not why you're here. You're here for us to talk about Star Wars.
Yes.
And let's get to the main topic first, which is that Legends Never Die. Marvel is releasing Star Wars issue 108. Dylan, tell us what on earth this is.
It's going to be a one-shot that's going to pick up after issue 50 of the original Marvel run, and I guess it's just going to complete that story arc or whatever. Apparently, it's been written because for Hasbro. I'm thinking about the next topic. Marvel's 80th anniversary. It's also the Empire Strikes Back Day and 40th anniversary. I cannot words today. And also apparently the guy who was writing it was a huge fan of the original Marvel run and has been like pestering Marvel to let him do it again, so they just let him.
Mm-hmm.
For those of us in the Legends sphere, this is the first confirmed. It's even saying that it's within the Legends continuity. They have all the media outlets have used the terms Legends continuity or like the Legends continuity that is no longer canon. So this is as confirmed as we can get that this is Legends without like Lucasfilm and Disney saying it's Legends or if it comes out like it has a Legends banner on the cover, which I'd be fine with personally.
Me too, because like I'm used to, at this point, with rebuilding my collection, I bought a bunch of. In fact, I actually bought the entire Marvel run in the old, a long time ago omnibuses. If you remember those that Dark Horse put out,
Hmm.
Dylan.
Yeah.
They have those digitally on Comixology. I picked them up, I think, for $5.99 a piece. I've been reading through those, but I'm used to like everything having a Legends banner on it. That's a comic now. Even if it was like Dark Horse, I'm used to like just the Legends banner over it. My hope is I don't know. They've been re-releasing the original Marvel run in what the in print with the Marvel Epic collections. I don't know if you're familiar with these, Dylan.
Yeah.
We've talked about them before. Um, but I don't know if they made it to issue 50 yet. I want to say they're close though. There's 3 volumes of it out now. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, this is since the decanonization of the EU, this is the first bit of Legends fiction that has been published since the Imperial Handbook late in 2014.
Oh, that's true. I was thinking like, wait, we had Heart of the Jedi and Skywalkers, but
Yeah,
those were
official released and published, because those, as well as a lot of people point to those, and a lot of people point to the Old Republic .com, the little short stories they do, and yes, those have comes out, but this is like, but those were all like available online. This is like an actual. They are taking the time to publish and print these and sell them. So buy Legends, when it comes out, go to your comic shop and order it. If you don't know what that is, I don't. Why are you watching this podcast?
exactly. I think I'm gonna double dip with this one because most of my comics I buy, well, nearly all of them. I think I bought one print comic since The Fire because I like the cover on it.
You really like that cover.
I felt like Dave Filoni when seeing it, but yeah, which would be William Gibson's Alien script for Alien 3 is being released by Dark Horse, which is really good, by the way. To plug something that's not Star Wars. But yeah, like I'm excited. I'm going to buy this and print it in digital.
Speaking of Dark Horse, hold on. I completely forgot about this.
Oh yeah, they're going to have some rights to Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah. So the book is called. What they're printing is called The Art of Star Wars Rebels. So like
they're printing an art book is pretty much it.
Yeah. So good on Dark Horse for getting some Star Wars back. But suffice to say, I probably won't be picking this one up.
Yeah, no, me neither. I don't really care about, because most art books now are kind of pointless because you can just find the art online.
Yeah.
Which I hate to say, but that's how the cookie crumbles, as they say.
But again, hopefully this is like the beginning of maybe them doing more. Maybe Marvel handles the canon line and Dark Horse handles the Legends line,
Yeah, maybe. By the way, have you heard about what Marvel's been doing lately with the comics?
You will have to be more specific than that.
The Age of Republic series.
No.
Okay, so I'll talk about this. It's almost done. I think there's only a couple of issues left. So Marvel this year is doing a series. Well, it started end of last year. They've been doing a series of one-shots, and there's 3 different series. It's Age of Republic, Age of Rebellion, Age of Resistance. So Age of Republic is almost up. It's been hit or miss, but the hits have been like really good. It started with a Qui-Gon Jinn one-shot. Then we had, oh god, who came next? Darth Maul. Darth Maul one-shot was okay. I enjoyed it. We had a Jango Fett one that sucked because there was no open seasons. We had a Count Dooku one that was decent. And the Anakin Skywalker one sucked. They had a special, which was like their annual, which had a Mace Windu story that was bad, a Ventress story that was good, and then a really awful story with Captain Rex and Jar Jar Binks that no one asked for. I think the next one's going to be Padme. I think there's a Padme one, a Grievous one, and that's the end of Age of Republic. But they're coming out like every other week. And they're just self-contained stories, and they're from different periods in Age of Republic, of course, like because Qui-Gon's and Darth Maul's happened before Phantom Menace. There's an Obi-Wan one, I forgot, that happens between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones because it has a young Anakin in it. Anakin's is during the Clone Wars. Dooku's is shortly before Attack of the Clones. So on and so forth. Yeah, they've been doing that. They got Aphra still. Aphra's the one I'm behind on. Like, I don't care enough.
Really, that's the one that everyone says is, like, amazing.
It's too goofy for me.
Well, Aphra and, like, the Poe Dameron comic back in the day, which I think has, like, been dead.
Poe Dameron ended a few months ago.
Oh, it did? I thought it ended like a year or two ago.
I don't remember.
Yeah, those are the only two comics of the Marvel, like, Star Wars comics that I hear good things about.
The main Marvel title, I caught up on it, finally. It's gotten better. It isn't great. The art's gotten better. They were doing this really gross-looking, close-to-life art, and it just looked like garbage. Also, the Darth Vader comics, kind of my favorite. They've been doing weird shit with Vader.
Is it better than the Dark Horse Darth Vader comics?
Most of them, yeah.
I mean, like, the like... What I mean by that is, like, the last one they ever did.
What was that? Cry of Shadows? Is that the last one?
The one that was, like, a clear cash grab.
That's Cry of Shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better than that. It's actually better than Ninth Assassin and Ghost Prison.
Is it better than Purge?
No. It's very much... It started out a lot like Purge. It was like the Marvel take on Purge. It was very Marvel Star Wars-esque with its structure. Right for the trade sort of deal that they fucking do at Marvel. Yeah. I'm not a fan of that style, but it is what it is. It talked about the creation of the Inquisitors that are in Rebels. It actually made Rebels more interesting to watch, knowing the background. But I've been reading a whole lot of the new canon, and it's very hit or miss, and that's a hit. So, yeah. We can move on to your Hasbro story.
So, yeah. Well, by the time this podcast is out, we'll know who made the finals. But Hasbro, after taking last year off, decided to reintroduce...
And to be fair, they deserved to take last year off. I don't think they would have survived ever again if they didn't take they take last year off, you know?
So they decided to do another fan poll. And this time, it being, again, the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back, they decided to make it so that the only characters you could vote for were characters that appeared in the Empire Strikes Back movie, who obviously had not already been made into Black Series figures for the 6-inch line. Now, a lot of people, myself included, saw this as a direct counter to our previous efforts in these fan polls.
Yeah.
And I would like to explain why this happened, at least in my opinion. I wrote an article for the expandeduniverse.com. It has not come out yet, so I don't know if it'll ever come out. So here is here's my conspiracy theory, okay? So let's go all the way back to 2015, the first Black Series fan poll, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really organize for this at all. It was just everyone vote for your favorite character, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, Revan's getting a whole lot of votes, so we should vote for him." And that's kind of how we came to like the conclusion of let's vote for Revan. So the final comes out, and it's Revan,
My
Sabine,
my roommate's back.
Lando Grievous, the Snow Trooper, the regular one, Gamorrean Guard, and there was one other I'm forgetting. There was one other. Hold on, what was it? Old Ben Kenobi. Now, the people, not the comic book people, the collectors, the people who mainly buy action figures and were looking into this, looked at this poll, and they all thought, oh, they were all voting for the Gamorrean Guard because you could. The thing with like collectors and like mainly with custom figures is that you need they want the aliens so they can do stuff with them. They could like make custom figures with them, and there hadn't been a Gamorrean Guard or anything of that body type, so they all wanted that. But then they see on one side of the fandom all these expanded universe fans lobbying for Revan to win. On the other side, Dave Filoni and Clone Wars fans lobbying for Sabine to win. And then it ends up being like not even close. Revan had like 47% of the vote. Sabine had like 20, and everyone else was in single digits.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, those two got their figure. Not one character from a video game, another character from a TV show, not the movie characters.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's go to 2016, when the finalists were Starkiller, Jaina, Darth Talon, Rex, Dengar, and Mara Jade. Again, all of the collector sites were voting for Dengar because that was their guy. He was at that point, I think, one of the only bounty hunters that hadn't had a figure.
Mm-hmm.
But they're seeing this as at the end of it, it was kind of a race between Jaina and Starkiller, with them like going back and forth, and each had about like 30% of the vote. I think it ended like Jaina had 32, Starkiller had 31, and Dengar was in like fourth place with 8%. And again, a video game character versus a book character winning over a movie character. So then we go to 2017, when again we saw the poll and we thought, well, let's vote for another Legends character. But at this point, the collectors who ran the fan sites that did the original polls caught wind of what was going on. And not all, certainly, but some decided to not count votes for Ben Skywalker, who was a character we were all rooting and campaigning for.
Never had a figure ever.
Yes. And not only that, they they complained to Hasbro about the campaigning and about the Legends figures. So, but and they were quite vocal about this. So when the list came out of the 22 fan sites who participated in the initial pollings, two of them, Dork Side of the Force and Star Wars Underworld, did not post a public list. Three of them, another two of them, three of them, Imperial Shipments, Jedi News, and Jedi Temple Archives, all removed Ben Skywalker votes from their polls. Even still, the final breakdown of all the public lists that we had was that Tonica Sisters had 13 tops, Yakface and Ben were each tied with 11, Pong Krell with 9, Sim Alu and Dr. Afra with 7. That should have been the top 6, because those were the top 6 vote getters. And then behind them, ARC Trooper 5s with 5, Luke Skywalker from The Force Awakens, Satele Shan and Ahsoka with Rebels from 4, and Jedi Temple Guard and Jackson and Padme Amidala each with 3. So those should have been the runner-ups. When the final poll comes out, a lot of those figures are missing. It goes, the figures that make it are Dr. Afro, Aphra, Yakface. 5, Sim Alu, Ahsoka from Rebels, and Emperor Palpatine. The Tonica sisters weren't there. Ben Skywalker wasn't there. Pong Krell wasn't there. Satele wasn't there. Rebels was Ahsoka. Sorry, the TFA Luke wasn't there. A lot of there was some shady business that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, the one that the collectors wanted, Yakface, seemed to have a clear shot at winning, right? Because no Legends characters, none of the Legends fans can vote in the poll because they don't have anyone. Well, somehow the canon fans all rallied and Dr. Aphra won.
Yes, I remember that.
And not only that, but TCW fans were also competing with the canon fans to get Ahsoka to second place. Yakface finished third behind Aphra and Ahsoka. Again, comic character and TV character winning over movie character.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can see where I'm going with this.
Yes.
Because the fan sites and the collectors, the ones who orchestrate these polls and the ones who have a direct tie with Hasbro, are the ones who reported all this. They're the ones they at least feel that these are their polls, not like the other polls. So they complained so much that Hasbro didn't do a poll last year, and now have done everything in their power to make it so that a movie character can win. Now, that doesn't mean boycott the poll, because here's not to be like a crappy like a political ad, but here's how we can still win this and stick it to the fan sites. There are multiple characters in Empire Strikes Back who have a minimal role in the movie, but have massive roles in the expanded universe that we have been voting for. Torrin Farr, Wedge Antilles, Wes Jansen, Hobby Killman, and those are the main 4 that I've seen.
Yeah.
Now the 11 fan sites that are up, only 2 have public lists, so it's it's really hard to get a sense of how it's going to be. We won't know until tomorrow when it's on Hasbro Pulse. But if you see any of those characters, or maybe another character that didn't do anything but had like a lot of EU backstory, Rikem is another one, for example, vote for them. So far, it's looking, at least from the 2, it's looking like Wedge will probably be the one who makes it to the final poll. So it'll probably end up being we'll all vote for Wedge.
Oh, for sure. It's probably going to be Wedge. Although I'd love to have a Jansen or Hobby figure.
Yeah, let me go over the 2 lists that are public right now. So Jedi Business has in 10th place Astromech Droid R3Y2, 9th place a Bespin Guard, 8th place the Medical Droid FX7, 7th place Luke Skywalker Dagobah, 6th place the man, the meme, the legend, Wilro Hood, aka the guy carrying the ice cream machine at Bespin. 5th place Princess Leia Organa in Bespin gown. 4th place T1B Medical Droid. 3rd place Wedge Antilles. 2nd place Hoth Rebel Trooper, and 1st place Lobots.
Lobot doesn't have a figure?
Yeah.
That's
and then
bizarre.
Another one, I forget which website this is, but in 10th place, Wes Jansen, 9th place, Luke Skywalker, Dagobah, 8th place, Ugnaught 2-pack. I don't think they'll do a 2-pack. 7th place, Han Solo and Carbonite. 6th place, Wedge. 5th place, T1B again. 4th place, Luke Bespin. Leia Bespin. 3rd place, again, the man, the meme, the legend, Willow Hood. 2nd place, Rebel Soldier. And 1st place, Lobots.
Yeah, Lobot's probably going to win.
I don't know. I think it, because I don't think many people will vote for alternate. Again, I think the collectors would be more keen on having like the they're not going to want like reskins of like other characters more than like a new character. So I think it's a 3-way race between Lobot, Wedge, and Willow Hood. Willow Hood simply because of the memes.
I forgot about that. I haven't watched the original trilogy in a long time, so I forgot about that.
Yeah. I'm not sure if Hasbro is gonna let it go, but again, unlike in previous fan polls when there were only six, except for the first one, they said there were six and they added Savine as the seventh, but we're not going to get into that. This one will have a final 10,
Okay.
and it'll be on Hasbro Pulse as the time's recording this tomorrow, which is Monday, the 25th, and I don't know for how long it's going to go for. None of the fan sites have said.
Okay. Cool. Do we have any other news?
Twin Sons is going to Celebration.
Oh, yeah. Are you going?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. If you've seen the other episodes of these podcasts, Brian will be there and Amelia will be there. So we'll have all three of the board members there. I think it's literally the first time all three of us have been in the same place.
That'll be awesome. I would have gone, but the fire happened in 2, I graduate this semester, so can't really miss any school.
So yeah, if you're going to be at Star Wars Celebration, which is the 11th to the 15th of April, I believe. Let me double check that. Not the 5th. Yeah, 11th to the 15th of April. We will be booth 1339. We'll be there all 5 days because it's going till Monday for some reason. Who does that? Okay, let me just say.
I've never heard of a convention on a Monday.
That goes Thursday to Monday. Yeah, who does that? Who does that?
Isn't Sunday usually a half day too?
Well, Sunday's a half day. So Sunday is now a full day, and Thursday is a half day. Because Thursday the convention floor doesn't open till like 1.
My only thought is that they couldn't get enough of the actors to promote episode 9 on Thursday.
But anyway, we'll be there. We'll booth 1339. We'll be taking while we're there any donations of Star Wars books in general. If you have like new or lightly used Star Wars books that you don't need, bring them to the table. We'll take them. They'll be donated to somewhere in the Chicago area. I believe it's either going to be a school or a women's shelter. We're not sure exactly. We're still getting that figured out, but it'll be one of those two. For donating your books, we are going to be holding a raffle, much like we did last time. Every book you donate gets you 1 raffle ticket, and you can win amazing prizes that are pretty much all Black Series figures. We have 4 Revans, we have 4 Janas, we have 1 Imperial Guard, and we have the 3.75 Imperial Guard. That's like that has like the Crimson Empire get up.
Right on.
That they did, and then we have a Lego Republic fighter tank.
Nice.
So we'll be giving out 2 prizes a day. We actually also have I don't think we've announced this yet, so this is an exclusive announcement. You hear it here first, unless this takes forever to edit and we announce it before this comes out. But anyway, we also had it in our budget. After we'd raised the funds, all the table supplies, the bookmarks, which we are giving away for free, as well as lanyards, which also if you donate a book, you'll get a lanyard. We also have buttons that we'll be giving away for free, business cards, and we have some Shannon McRandall picks left over. We're going to figure out what to do with them as well. But because we had some extra funds, we also purchased 10 Twin Sons Foundation t-shirts, which we'll be giving off 2 of those a day as well. So,
right on.
Yeah, so if you're there and you want to hang out, talk, we'll be there all 5 days. You're more than free to just hang out at the booth. We had a few people do that last time. Chris, 2 different Chris's did that. Yeah, we had multiple people who did that last time. You want to just say hi, Spencer? I know you are coming, so please feel free to come over. We'd love to talk some Star Wars. We'd love to, yeah. And then if you can't be there, another thing that we have done with the fundraiser, we have made our goals, so we have enough to do all this. that we are going to be purchasing internet at the convention so that we can live stream the whole thing on the Twin Suns Foundation YouTube channel. So if you want to watch it live, we'll be there. Much like last time, we'll be interacting with the chat a lot because there's a lot of downtime usually. Thursday, since it's since the convention doesn't start late, we'll be having like a test stream. So that stream probably won't go. Basically, just to test out the setup and like work out all the kinks. And then as soon as the convention starts, we'll be starting the actual stream. We should have the VODs on the YouTube channel if you can't catch them in time but want to watch them later. They are going to be like 12 hours long, so just a fair warning.
There we go. That's what I like to hear. An even more boring live stream than ours usually are.
Well, I think I did a good job talking to chat last time. Those of you who are watching this who were there.
I don't even remember it. But that was 2 years ago.
Yeah. I did a lot of memeing.
Oh, of course you did. Dylan.
Yeah, someone donated a copy of Legacy of the Force Invincible, and I started reading the Jason jokes to chat. Because if you don't know Legacy of the Force Invincible, every chapter starts off with a quote or a joke that Jason said during the Young Jedi Knights books. So yeah, I was just reading those for the lulz because they were so bad, but they're funny.
And really sad in Legacy of the Force Invincible.
So speaking of, what have we been reading?
Oh God, do you want me to start?
Yeah.
I dropped a bombshell on Dylan right before we started recording, and it was, I potentially found a Star Wars book that's worse than Aftermath. And that would be Dark Disciple by Christie Golden. It's the epitome of trash Clone Wars episode. It ruins Quinlan Voss's character to the point where I don't think I can read anything with Quinlan Voss in it again. Like, Dylan, it was that bad. It barely was the Quinlan Voss character. Dooku was bad. Ventress wasn't good. Obi-Wan was bad. Mace Windu was bad. Like, just pretty much every single character in the book was terrible except for Yoda. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. But it was the worst. I also read Ahsoka. Also, E.K. Johnston is, in my opinion, a lot of ways, the Chuck Wendig of the young adult novels. She's just terrible. Her books are just so bad. Queen Shadow, I've heard some bad things about. That's not out yet. It will be soon. Geeks Addict's actually sending me a copy to read. Part of me is looking forward to it, but part of me isn't. A good book I read was A New Dawn by John Jackson Miller. That was a fun read.
That was the first canon book, actually.
It was the last canon book I've read. I read the Solo novelization. That was actually really good. There's a Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of Sharu reference in it, which was just completely bizarre. No one references the Lando Calrissian novels by L. Neil Smith, but I guess the author of Solo, Mur Hadley, I want to say. I could be butchering that name completely, but they did a good job with that. God, I've been reading the Marvel comics, the original Marvel comics and the new Marvel comics. I'm caught up on the new Marvel comics, but I already talked about reading the new canon stuff. I've been reading the EU original Marvel run. I'm on Empire Strikes Back, so issue 39 or issue 40 is where I left off a couple days ago. And that's pretty much all I've read recently. What about you, Dylan?
What have I been reading? Well, I've been reading a lot. So I think the last time we had this podcast, we were both about to read Outbound Flight, and we were like, "Oh, we could do a podcast where we talk about it." Since then, I have read Outbound Flight, The Approaching Storm, The Attack of the Clones novel, Cessa's Deception, Clone Wars, and Clone Wars Wild Space, and No Prisoners.
Oh, excellent.
So I am well within the Clone War. I read them out of order because the book order is wrong. So the book order says you should read, after Attack of the Clones, you should read Clone Wars, Clone Wars Wild Space, and No Prisoners, and then Stealth and Gambit. But then I looked in the Reader's Companion and like online, after I'd already read Clone Wars and I was Wild Space and was into No Prisoners, it's like, oh no, the Cessa's Deception and Jedi Trial happened before Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, they happened quite a bit before. Cessa's Deception happens quite a bit before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been wrong. There's Clone Wars has very contradictive lists. Matt and I talked about this when he was going through the Clone Wars. I actually ended up helping Matt a little bit with it from what I remembered, because like the most accurate list until I read the Pablo Hidalgo's Reader's Companion was in one of the Boba Fett young adult novels. Had it semi in the correct order. And that was counting the Dark Horse comics and stuff. But that didn't have the Clone Wars Adventures that were the spin-offs of the Ginty Tartakovsky show. So you would have to go into Ryder Wynnham's comic companion for that. But of course, neither of those had complete lists of the Clone Wars. That was the main problem with the Clone Wars. So let me ask you this question, Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to read Abel G. Pena's Skywalkers?
I don't know where in the timeline it takes place.
My guess is it's near the end of the Clone Wars. Because I think Ahsoka's in it. But I could be wrong. Because that, of course, is referenced in the original Star Wars annual. Came out in like 1978, 79. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. I've been half paying attention throughout this whole thing because I've been looking for this quote when he started talking about Dark Disciple. So this was from February 21st of 2016. John Ostrander's grab bag. So he just he just has on his website, he just makes a whole bunch of things, right? So of a bunch of stuff. So here's where he starts out. Credit where credit is due. I recently picked up a Star Wars novel, Dark Disciple, by Christie Golding. For those of you who don't know, Quinlan Voss is the writer behind a lot of Star Wars books. He wrote a lot of the Republic series. He wrote Legacy. I'm blanking on other stuff. Yeah, Dawn of the Jedi was him, and a lot of others. But basically, he is the guy that made Quinlan Voss a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it featured a character created by Jan Duursema, myself, and for the comics, the character is Quinlan Voss. The book is well written. I bet you'll disagree with that. Miss Golding is no stranger to novels, especially franchise books. And I'm okay with the characterization of Quinn doesn't match up with what we did. The story was adapted from some scripts of the Clone Wars animated series, while Quinn was an alternate universe version. Oh, and he shared some looks with the traits of the original version, but in many respects, he was a very different character.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I can deal with that. I know from day one that whether we created belonged lock, stock, and dreadlocks to Lucasfilm licensing and now to Disney, I do wonder why you are using an existing character from another medium and then change him so much. However, that's their prerogative, so be it. My complaint, however, is that there are two sets of acknowledgments at the beginning of the book. One from the author and another from the co-writer of the animated episodes, who also happens to be George Lucas's daughter.
Yeah.
Nowhere in either of them were Jan Duursema was his illustrator, and that on basically all the same projects. The two were like ultimate wombo combo when it
They
came to.
were the perfect duo in
Yeah, they were.
Dark Horse. Um,
Name a more iconic duo. I'll wait. I'll probably make that into a meme.
I honestly, ugh,
Yeah, nowhere in either of them were Jan
yeah.
or I acknowledged or thanked. Really, I understand that I own no part in Quinn. Unlike Amanda Waller and the Suicide Squad, I don't get any money when Quinn is used elsewhere. That was the deal from the start. However, if you're thanking folks who made it possible, why not the tomb who originated him?
God, you know I have to put that in my review.
I'll
Can you send me a link to that
yes.
on the Facebook? We'll throw that in my review. Yeah, it was nauseating. It was really a nauseating experience reading it. It was so bad. It was so bad, Dylan. I put it down twice and listened to other things. I listened to something like 4 books in the middle of listening to Dark Disciple.
He talks about other things in that post, so you kind of have to scroll down to it. It starts with credit where credit is due.
Okay. Remember Hexerdusk?
Yeah, I still get emails about it.
Will that ever come out?
I don't know. Oh my god, Legends came back before Hexerdusk.
Now that's sad.
This is so sad. Alexa, play Disc.
God. Fuck. Are you reading any of the comics, like the Dark Horse stuff or anything still?
I am, but only when they come up. Only when I feel I need to. Like going into Clone Wars, I felt like I should know the I should know Jabim, because literally every single book I've read so far has like mentioned like Jabim. Like literally every single one has mentioned Jabim.
Yeah.
So yeah, I read the Jabim arc of Republic. I think that's the last comic I read though.
I think it's a good one.
Oh, it's
one of the best. Was that John Ostrander?
I believe so.
And Jan Turismo?
Because they were most of Republic.
Yeah. I think by the end, they were the only team on it. Yeah, because it becomes very Quinlan Voss heavy.
No, it was Hayden Blackman and Brian Ching.
Okay. The other
Wombo comp. The other.
Well, I mean, Brian Ching and John Jackson Miller, if I'm not mistaken, they both did KOTOR.
Yeah.
That was a good duo.
Well, Jan and
who did Dark Times?
Dark Times.
Because John and Jan did Legacy.
Yeah, I know for a fact John and Jan did Legacy, and they did Dawn of the Jedi.
That's true. They did do Dawn of the Jedi.
Which got better. It got.
Oh yeah, I'm one of the few people that liked Dawn of the Jedi the entire time.
Dark Times was Mick Harrison and Willis Hartley.
Okay. Dark Times got weird really quick. I remember, I stopped liking it right around when right before it tied into Vector, and Vector was like the nail in the coffin of me not reading it anymore. Like with a lot of things, Vector kind of ruined everything, or had no effect. But how many times have I shit on Vector on this podcast? Probably too many. Dylan's gone.
I'm here.
Yeah, he thinks so. Do we want to go into questions?
I'm pretty sure everyone who had questions forgot what the questions were, but sure, let's do it.
Yeah, let's go find Legends. fucking 20. I don't even. It would be 25, which I wanted was not quite a year ago. We did better than last time.
Yeah, it's funny. Matt messaged me like he was like, "Where's the next Legends podcast?" And like a day later, you were like, "We should do a Legends podcast."
Yeah, we need to do a Legends podcast. We need to do this more regularly. I haven't talked to Matt in months. Okay, Creator Studio. Come on, you butt knuckle. Gotta love high-speed internet not being high-speed. Well, because we had the Legends podcast in September that had the bad audio.
Yeah.
I can tell when it went up. God, that was so bad. I can't believe I waited 2 months to upload it to iTunes. Do we even have any questions on it?
Check the one previous to that because I think we cut the podcast off before we even got to questions.
That's true. We have. Oh God. I'm gonna do the link to this. We got 2 massive ones. Not even massive. We got one massive one, and then we have one from Dark Stovia that's actually shorter than what he usually puts.
What? Is that even possible?
It's only a 2-part question from him. The other one's a 9-part question.
So what Dark Snovia has done is he's created an alt account that he can ask us really long questions with just to throw us off the scent. So I'm sorry, whoever wrote that question, but you are now Dark Snovia's alt account.
Obviously. Where is... How do I... I'm going to just send it to you on Facebook for the sake of this podcast. Sake of being smooth. John Tuttle. Oh, there you... Oh, you're already up. Okay. Is that popping up for you?
No, YouTube is broken. I'm just kidding.
You wouldn't... You could just leave it there. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's like that meme I posted earlier.
Yeah.
Also, Comcast is like, oof, man, it's making me nostalgic for the days of dial-up internet when, like, you know, it only took 3 hours for like an image or a link to load.
Yeah. How is your internet, by the way? Can we get an update on that?
Oh my! It literally says, "Oops, something went wrong."
Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to copy and paste the text directly in.
Oh my God, YouTube! You're such a joke.
So we'll start with Josh Farr's question from 2 months ago, and then we'll work into Dark Snovia's. I'm half tempted to just send you a screenshot, but I already went to the trouble of copy and pasting this. Okay, there you go, Dylan. It's right in your messenger.
Oh dear. Okay, so so for those of you who can't see, Jeremy essentially just copy pasted the entirety of the Silmarillion.
I would say I wouldn't go that far. I would say it was the equivalent of Unfinished Tales by J.R.R. Tolkien. God, okay. This is from God. It's from Josh Farr. Sorry it took 2 months to send this to you. I can tell you actually edited it. So, okay. So, question 1. If Legends is continued, would you guys be interested in a novel about Jason Solo's 5-year journey? If so, what author would you want to write the novel?
Yes, because again, when the when the movie came out, when they announced that they were doing episode 7, before they announced the decanonization of the expanded universe, they announced it was going to be 30 years in the future. I did the quick maths, and I'm like, oh, that's right during Jason's that's right during Jason's that's literally right when Jason was out learning all the ways of the Force. I would love to see what he was doing through all that time, but no. So yes, I would. Yes, I would. Who would write it?
If you say Matthew Stover, I'm going to be furious.
The problem is I have two candidates, technically 3, but it's 2. Yes, Matthew Stover, because he did an excellent job with Jason and Traitor. You haven't read Traitor yet, so
I know there'll be a space battle in it.
no, there's no Jason wouldn't. Jaina was the fighter pilot. Jason was like the thinker. He was the monk. The other one would be and this is technically a twofer, but Kevin J. Anderson and his wife Rebecca Moesta, because they did the Young Jedi Knight series with Jason, and I would really love to see how they would treat because like, even though technically Timothy Zahn created the characters of Jason and Jaina, it was
Kevin J. Anderson really
and Rebecca really fleshed out their characters and their tics and all that. So I would love to see how they would incorporate all that happened and like kind of the change. Those would be my answers.
Okay, so I'm confused as to when the 5-year journey happened.
The 5-year journey happened in between basically in between oh shoot, I'm forgetting the names. Right after the end of the Yuuzhan Vong War.
So before Dark Nest.
Yes, between that and Dark Nest.
That's what I was thinking.
He comes out of his exile / sabbatical, whatever, siesta, at the start of the Dark Nest trilogy because of the Dark Nest crisis. Is basically what causes him to come back to the galaxy.
Okay. Yeah. So I'd be interested in this novel because I'm interested in most expanded universe things. Who would I want to write it? It's definitely Vonda McIntyre.
Well,
I can hear Dylan vomiting in the background because
I liked Vonda McIntyre. Barbara Hambly is the one.
Well, she did the coolest thing with the twins in Crystal Star.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious to see what she'd do with Jason, make it really weird. Something like that. Or if we want to get really weird, either William C. Ditz. He's the master of weird crap in Star Wars. Or, of course, my go-to is James Luceno.
Mm-hmm.
James Luceno, to me, writes a good story that takes place over a period of time.
Yeah.
His pacing with that sort of story is always, I find, to be excellent.
Literally, just read Darth Plagueis and you'll get what we're talking about.
Or if you're reading new canon, Catalyst, a Rogue One novel, is also paced very similarly. Or Tarkin. Those two are both really well paced.
Labyrinth of Evil happens over like the course of like a month, I think.
Yeah, that was a little different. Millennium Falcon.
That's also like that. Well,
If I'm
so
not, am
so
I not
technically,
remembering Millennium Falcon correctly? That's probably true.
well, technically, Millennium Falcon, like in present time, only takes place over the span of a couple days, but like through the flashbacks, yes, it's multiple decades.
Okay.
Because Millennium Falcon is literally just them like discovering the history of the Millennium Falcon. And like as they discover it, like when people like tell their stories, it like does the flashback of like what happened 50 years ago when like it was doing this. And then it just ends with, oh, by the way, Fate of the Jedi is about to happen. Go read that. I'm not even joking. That's literally how.
Yeah,
it ends with the plot of Fate of the Jedi, essentially.
Yeah. In hindsight, what a weird transition book.
I mean, it was Tim's first ever book, which boggles my mind.
It was whose?
Tim. That was his first ever Star Wars book.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's a bizarre one. That's like someone saying Cross Current or Riptide were one of their first. Because those are
God forbid, Into the Void.
You're just gonna be confused.
You're gonna be like, who are you people? What is this?
Yeah, that's what.
But actually, speaking of Fate of the Jedi, actually, Fate of the Jedi is basically that book, because Ben and Luke's whole plot throughout the early part of that is that they're retracing Jason's steps, and like, I mean, not getting into too much spoilers, but it's basically they're tasked with trying to find out why Jason fell, and they do that by like going to all the people that he like saw and studied under that like 5-year time. So I mean, you don't see it, but you do get like secondhand accounts of what happened.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's hit question number 2. Are there any Star Wars novels or comics that one of you love but the other hates? Well,
Red Harvest.
We both hate Red Harvest.
No, I love Red Harvest.
That's true. That's right. You do love Red Harvest. We talked about this a while ago. I detest that book.
Also, the Bane trilogy is trash.
Disagree fundamentally.
I was kidding.
I don't care for anything Matthew Stover writes.
Yeah, whereas I think he's all right. Then again, I haven't gotten to Revenge of the Sith novel, which again, everyone but Jeremy says is the best expanded universe book ever written.
And I fundamentally disagree with that. I wouldn't even say it's the best movie novel written. That goes to Terry Brooks' The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
I mean, that book's solid.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones was decent, but it's kind of like amongst them like really forgettable.
Yeah, well, that's already Salvatore for you.
Like the only thing that that really stands out is from that book was when Shmi died. That whole build up was written, in my opinion, masterfully.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else about it is just kind of, aside from him like replacing a lot of the cringy dialogue in the Anakin Padme scenes.
Yeah, but Terry Brooks does that too.
Yeah, they all do that. But then again, it's always funny, like knowing the prequels as well as I do, and like reading a prequel book when you can you can predict the lines that are coming up.
Yeah.
Like you're saying the lines, you're like, it's like, oh man, here it comes. Yep, there's that line. All right, so that was 2. 3. Watched a video where the Council Forecast fan analysis briefly talked about the fate of the Jedi, and they said that they didn't like it due to retcons, and they also said that they felt the series was very contrived and that they didn't like Abeloth and the Ones. What are your thoughts on this?
I have not read Fate of the Jedi. That's my thoughts on it. I know it was designed to, if I'm not mistaken, it was designed to take all of the West End game stuff that hadn't been referenced yet and
Hmm.
bring it into the canon, because a lot of things have been made canon all at once at this time.
Yeah.
Like this, if I'm not mistaken, Fate of the Jedi came out around the same time Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor
Yeah, Fate of the Jedi
happened.
was 2009 to 2012.
And Luke Skywalker, the Shadows of Mindor, like, as I recall, it finishes off a story arc that wasn't really finished in the Marvel comics.
Yeah, I didn't like so when you say retcons, I don't know exactly what you're talking about because to my knowledge there wasn't any. Like except for unless you're counting like how it retcons the Mortis arc in TCW, which I'd counter that TCW was a retcon of the EU, so
Fair enough. There we go.
but yeah, they made the Mortis arc good though. They made it make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the only thing I can think of is I mean, Kenneth Hamner, I kind of felt was a little much in that. Without this is the problem when I'm talking about this with like when I'm talking about books so far in the timeline is I can't say much because it'd be spoiling what happens to him, and I don't think Dala was retconned either because Dala was always like that. It's just like up until that point, she never had the power to do anything like that. Luke was Luke. Yeah, all the characters were fine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, unless you're talking about the whole thing with Jagged Fell and him essentially stepping down from being head of the state of the Empire, whereas in Legacy we know that they eventually get the power again because there's like a 90-year time gap between those books. I'm okay with that because I'm okay with at some point the Fells got back into power.
Which would be a compelling book series or comic book series. Maybe probably a better novel series, I think.
Well, he did it. Well, the way he fell from power, he did like completely on his own
Mm-hmm.
because what he did was it was a power struggle between him and Dala,
Mm-hmm.
and he said like instead of solving this through violence, let's solve this through the polls. Let's let the Empire decide who rules. And Dala had more support within the Empire, so she agreed. And
Mm-hmm.
then he also said, "Oh, this third person also we should run, just so there's a third party candidate." And then like he dug up evidence that basically no that basically ruined his and Dala's chances at winning the election, so that the third guy that they had picked like as a joke won and became head of state. So
that's
he purposely sabotaged himself and Dala at the same time.
that's really good. I like that.
And again, because he didn't really want to be head of state, he was kind of just forced into that because of the end of Legacy of the Force, and he wanted to spend time with what by the end of the series became his wife because they like could never see each other.
Mm-hmm.
It all made sense. The motivations were fine.
Um, should we move to question 4?
Yeah.
Why is it that the comic reprints of EU books have the Legends banner on the very bottom, but the books have it at the top? I'm assuming you mean that the novels have them at the top and the comic books have them at the bottom. Um, it feels like it looks really ugly. It feels like having it at the bottom makes much better sense and is less noticeable. What do you guys think? I don't care.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, the only thing is that if it's at the bottom, it would be about where the author is.
Yeah, I kind of like it at the top because it differentiates it from the new canon right away.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I know a lot of people don't like the Legends banner. Uh, Moving on to question 5. What TCW retcons bothered you the most?
Oh man, I've talked about this before, I know.
I think we talked about this on a podcast. You could
So, I can tell you the
let's just name.
exact episode.
Yeah, we'll name one each. But just know that nearly all of them
Hmm.
bothered us. I
Yeah,
think that's safe to just assume on your end, Dylan.
yeah. But
Uh,
this one bothered me because it has to do with my favorite character from the movies.
mm,
So, I can tell you the exact episode. Season 1, episode 10, Lair of Grievous. In the
oh,
episode,
yeah.
in the episode, okay, Kit Fisto blinks.
Oh, it's that one.
And here's the thing. Here's the
That's
thing
right.
about Kit Fisto. He's a Nautolan, and Nautolans don't have eyelids. Like it's so petty and it's so stupid. But like for some reason that like you couldn't just look it up. It's such a small little thing. But I guess it's the small things that get me. Because it's like when you got the little details in there, when you can at least get the little details right, you can kind of forgive it because they're putting in the effort. But no, they're not even putting in the effort. Oh yeah, he has dust in his eyes, so he blinked. Nautilids don't have eyelids; they have like membranes and
Because they're fish,
yes.
pretty much. Um,
Like Cessa's deception multiple times makes it clear that oh yeah, Kit Fisto, by the way, his lidless eyes. I think I read the phrase lidless eyes no less than 3 dozen times while reading that book.
yeah. There's a whole slew of the ones. The one I hate the most is the Mandalorian
Oh, that's it.
retcon. That's the one
That's the one everyone hates. I think that's the
that's
one universally no one defends.
um uh because that's stupid. The whole Mandalorian arc's stupid. The whole Satine thing with Obi-Wan with the been there, done that thing. I hated that. Um, Actually, you know what? I'll go with this one. We've talked about it on here before. It's the episode that introduces Tarkin, and I'm not going to talk about the Even Pill's death because that's terrible. Even though he's gunned down in Coruscant Nights, I'm talking
As
about
well as Adi Galia's death,
Adi Gallia's death too.
which is also a retcon.
Um, but I'm going to talk about this. In order to get into that base, they had to go into the carbon freezing chambers. If Anakin knew to do that, why does Darth Vader not know how carbon freezing works on a human?
And
I
you
know
know
the
my
retcon
retcon.
because we've talked about this on at least 2 episodes.
Yes. But
Like,
my way of fixing that, other than the Fantasy Flight Core rulebook saying that it's all Imperial propaganda, is that is that um, the carbon freezing chamber in Bespin was either recently constructed or recently refurbished, and it hadn't been safety tested yet.
okay,
Which, by the way, about the whole fact of like the Clone War, the TC the retcon from Fantasy Flight, a lot of people seem to think that because I've heard the argument that it doesn't make sense that it was Clone Wars era that it was Empire era propaganda because the Clone Wars actually glorifies the actions of the Jedi in those holoreels, and also things like the Mortis arc wouldn't have been common knowledge until like after Fate of the Jedi, basically.
hmm.
But I don't think that disproves that it was Imperial propaganda. I just think that it proves that that whenever those were made, the only records that existed were the doctored Imperial records. So that's all they had to go off of. So in my opinion, it doesn't matter exactly when they were created, just that mattered that essentially Compnor had falsified all known data, knowledge, and information about the Clone Wars to the point that the only information that was available was the falsified data. So whenever those reels were made, they were made with that falsified data. But yeah,
Yeah.
question 5.
Question 5. That was question 5. Question 6. You've probably heard me bring up this topic a lot on Matt's Q&As. What do you guys think of Anakin Solo's death? It was a nice curveball. That's what I think of it. It upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was not planned, but I think it leads to the greatest series in post Jedi, which I think is Legacy of the Force.
Yeah, because it's kind of a domino. So you say it cheapens Chewbacca's death. Chewbacca died to save Anakin. Anakin died to save the Jedi Order. So there go. Chewbacca essentially died to save the Jedi Order. It doesn't necessarily cheapen his death.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like what he said, what he was saying with the impact that it had on other characters, like Jason, Jaina, Tahiri, the Han and Leia. It's kind of as much as I don't haven't seen a lot of the new canon, it's kind of the problem I have with what the new canon has done, where I think they killed off the wrong end of Han and Chewie. I think the expanded universe got it right because Han without Chewie is still interesting, but Chewie without Han isn't.
Well, Chewie doesn't. Well, that's the problem with the new canon, with the exception of Solo, and even with the movies in general. Chewbacca's a background character. The only movie
he doesn't have anything to do without Han, but Han without Chewie still has plenty to do.
Yeah, the only movie I think got Chewie down as an interesting character was the Solo movie, of all things. He has the most character in that. He's actually the most interesting. But yeah, no, the prophecy about him and Tahiri having a child, huh?
No.
Nah.
Keep the lineages. Honestly, just keep the lineages simple. We don't need 50 different lines of the Solos and Skywalkers. We have what, 3? We have the Solos, the Skywalkers, and the Fells. I think that's enough, honestly.
Yeah. Move on to 7.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite Star Wars authors? We've answered this on here before. James Luceno, Timothy Zahn, Kevin J. Anderson, Aaron Alston, Michael Stackpole. I think we share those. Troy Denning. Any others you want to throw in there?
No, I think you got them all.
This is one we've gotten before, and
yeah. You're talking comics like, Ostrander, basically the people we've talked about before.
Ostrander, John Ostrander, John Jackson Miller.
Yeah.
I even go and say Archie Goodwin for the original Marvel comics. He was the pioneer of that. So yeah.
You're talking about source books. Ryder Wynnum and Jason Fryar are great as well.
Yeah. Move on to question 8.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the explanation of Rey being overpowered? If you aren't aware, apparently she downloaded all of Kylo Ren's skills and abilities after they connected minds or something like that. Rey is overpowered because she has plot armor. I didn't mind it in Force Awakens so much as I really cared about it in Last Jedi, because Rey had nothing to do in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Like with the majority of the characters in Last Jedi, they had nothing to do. Leia had nothing to do. Finn, in order to have him do something, they had to revert his character back to the way it was at the beginning of the previous film. Yeah, I don't care.
So I don't like this. Again, I don't know if this is true, and I don't follow the new canon, but I don't like this theory for because it basically runs counter to the at least in the expanded universe lore. Power does not equal skill, and the best example of this is Jason and Jaina's final fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because by all stretch of the imagination, objectively speaking, Jason is a more powerful Force user than Jaina. Mm-hmm. He has spent more time meditating the Force. He knows more Force powers. He understands the Force better, and even though they both have the same potential, he has reached his potential fully.
I mean,
the reason Jaina wins.
to give you an example, he goes toe to toe with Luke in Legacy of the Force
multiple times, and
multiple
basically
times, and he goes.
each time essentially draws him, fights him to a standstill. Though there are usually extraneous factors of why Luke, like there was one time when it was basically Jason versus Luke and Ben, but Luke had to constantly stop Ben from killing Jason because he didn't want Ben to go to the dark side.
Mhm.
So like there were multiple times in a lot of their fights Luke was handicapped in some ways, but even still he managed to fight a handicapped Luke to a draw.
And he takes on Kyle Katarn, another incredibly powerful Force user.
And actually he loses to Katarn
That is true.
because he fights four council members. He fights Saba Sabatine, who he outright beats. He fights Kyle Katarn, who actually Kyle Katarn had him on the end of his lightsaber until a clown car hit him in the back and basically gave Jason the opening he needed to escape. He fought Mara, who also had him beat on the edge of his lightsaber until he used Vision's shenanigans to cause her to hesitate long enough to get in the killing blow. And then we've already talked about Luke.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that even though Jason is more powerful than Jaina, Jason has spent most of his life meditating on the Force and learning all these different ways of utilizing and harnessing the Force, whereas Jaina has spent all her time learning how to fight with the Force. She is a combat specialist. She is more skilled. And in that fight, it's the skill that ends up overwinning the power.
Mm-hmm.
It's like power and skill are not the same thing.
Yes.
It's why even though Anakin is the most powerful Jedi of all time, he is constantly beaten in the prequels and in TCW and in all expanded universe lore. Anytime he comes up against someone who's more skilled than them, he pretty much loses.
Yeah, well, the thing with Anakin, though, is he only focused on one form.
Yeah.
Which was is it Form 4 or Form 5? Because Obi-Wan uses the other in episodes 2 and 3. I get them mixed up.
Yeah, so Obi-Wan originally was a Form 4 specialist because Qui-Gon was a Form 4. But then when Qui-Gon died, he realized that he needed to shore up his defenses, and he relied more on Form 3 for defense and only used Form 4 till end of fights.
Mm-hmm.
He mainly taught Anakin Form 4, but as Anakin grew through the Clone Wars, he attended to adopt Form 5 more. And then when he became Darth Vader, he realized that relying on just Form 5 was a flaw, so he learned the other lightsaber forms as well, so he could basically kill any Jedi that tried to fight. So he could round up the last of the Jedi, and he became more of a tactical fighter, where he just he would kind of just sit back and defend until he figured out what you were doing and do whatever it was to beat you.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of how Luke which is actually also ironically how Luke did it as well, but
all right.
But anyway,
shall we move to the final question?
Yes.
From Josh Farr? Are there any good websites apart from Amazon and eBay where I can find Star Wars science fiction book club hardcover books? By the way, I live in the UK. Okay.
I was about to say Books A Million, but nope.
Yeah, there is, and I don't remember what it's called. I've never bought stuff from there, but I used it as a pricing guide. It's like rarebooks.com or something. I looked on there a long time ago for the Lando books when I was near the end of my collecting.
Oh, Arrow is also Penguin. Okay.
Dylan, do you have any?
No, I was just looking up because I know the publisher is Arrow Books there, and I just found out that Arrow is also owned by Penguin, which is the same people who owned Random House and Del Rey. So
yes,
I didn't know that.
I had some of the UK books. They're under Century.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my copy of the Clone Wars is Arrow because no one had it in the U.S., so I had to buy it. I had to buy a British copy.
Okay. We're going to move on to Dark Shinovia's questions because I got to wrap this up pretty quick. Sorry. First, Dark Shnovia question. Oh, well, he's calling himself the Darth Riddler. Do you feel like Disney Star Wars drama has become more about politics than about criticizing Disney's direction for Star Wars? Because that's what I see from both sides of the spectrum. To a degree, yes.
Yes.
It devolves into name calling and all sorts of stuff, which is one of the reasons I took a step back from most of nearly all the social media for the last several months. Dylan, would you agree?
Yeah, I would also say that it's not unwarranted that this has become the conversation because, I mean, Disney have made it pretty clear or that that's the way that they want to go with it. But I will say it is kind of yeah, a lot of even though it's fun, it's like cool and hip now to hate on the Disney Star Wars movies. I wouldn't necessarily say that every Star Wars person who criticizes Star Wars in particular, like Last Jedi and what they've been doing, is like would be friendly to what we're trying to accomplish. That the EU is no longer the main talking point. I'm making no sense right now.
No, yeah. You're concise enough. Question 2: the Clone Wars timeline is confusing to make sense of because of basically spacing. The Clone Wars takes place 2 to 3 months after the Battle of Geonosis. Considering the fact that he would mean almost 3 years after the battle spans a few months, the Fantasy Flight retcon to me is not good enough because of all of the tie-in material. Do you think it makes sense to move the Clone Wars towards the end of the war rather than the beginning? I always assumed it was to near the end of the war.
Yeah.
Because Anakin's knighted.
Yeah, Anakin's knighted, and that didn't happen until I think the first year of the war. And again, the Clone Wars book, in the Clone Wars novel, they literally mention the Battle of Jabin, so it's at least happened after Jabin.
Yeah, well, it's a mess. The Clone Wars is a mess.
Yeah.
It is the biggest timeline mess. Rebellion's a mess, but at least there is some semblance of order. With Clone Wars, order kind of got thrown out the window for a while.
Because there's really 2 Clone Wars. There's like the Clone Wars multimedia project from 2002 to 2005, and then there's like TCW from like 2008 to present.
Which even in new canon is a mess. Because you have to understand that we can't throw the Clone Wars out. I used to say, I preached this on this podcast before, but I've changed my mind. You can't throw out Filoni's show.
Yes, 100% agree.
You can't.
It's too embedded. It's too embedded to the expanded universe. Is
it Wild Space where No Prisoners where Callistia shows up?
It's No Prisoners.
Which Callistia is just a huge deal in Post-Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
A big character.
Not only that, but the book that like literally no one can criticize, Darth Plagueis, has ties to Clone Wars. They specifically mentioned that Darth Vader was a Zabrak from Dathomir. That his backstory from Clone... What?
Darth Maul, you mean?
Darth Maul, yeah, sorry.
It's all good.
But it's... See, the problem is that the Clone Wars worked to retcon, some would say maliciously, some would say incompetently, through incompetence or malice, one of the two, retconned all of the timeline. And then the authors who were writing books at the same time, because the authors are told that that it's canon, everything is canon, they've now got to work and figure out, okay, how do we fix this? So they start taking things from Clone Wars and making the men's as they go, or bringing things from Clone Wars and tying them together. while at the same time, the Clone Wars is maliciously retconning and or incompetently, depending on your opinion of Filoni, is doing that. So, and that's the problem, is that yes, it went out of its way to retcon these things, but because the authors did everything that they could to make it fit, we can't ignore it because there are simply too many seed.
Yeah.
Which is, again, why the Imperial propaganda is simply the best explanation, that any contradictions are simply because when you're seeing the Clone Wars, what you are seeing is the altered histories, no matter who, because that's the only records that there are. And plus, like, now that I'm thinking about this, for example, when you have, I think there's something like, there's 1.3 million full member states in the Republic. So, like, planet-wise, there's 1.3 million, systems that have voting rights in the Republic, and there are 68 million planets that are in some way habitable and have a population on them. When you're talking about a war on that scale, there's going to be multiple battles happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And I think that, again, with the Imperial propaganda, or the Clone Wars as propaganda and glorifying it, a lot of the problem is that battles happen at the same time with the same characters. It could be argued that in the retelling of the events, that basically they said, oh, well, it wasn't this Jedi who was there who, like, no one heard about. It was this high profile Jedi, actually, to sell tickets, essentially.
Well, I'll pull something from the prologue of Revenge of the Sith. Anakin and Obi-Wan are celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
They are heroes in the Revenge of the Sith novel.
They're heroes in Wild Space.
Mm-hmm. They're the hero Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense, in order to make these people legends, that they would just
insert them to every battle that they could get away with.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they weren't actually there.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Well, thank you, Dylan, for coming back.
I got nothing better to do.
All right.
Literally have nothing better to do.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time.
Mm-hmm.